Evening, everybody, and welcome to the New Shoreham Town Council meeting for Tuesday, September 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:02. I'd like to remind everybody that anybody wishing to speak from the audience will be asked to rise and use the central microphone to ensure audio for those watching from home. Item number 1 on the agenda is public comment. Does anybody have any public comment that doesn't have anything to do with anything on the agenda this evening? David Lewis, please.
Going to stand back. Sound all right? Okay. So thank you, Andre. My comment tonight is written and it runs about 4 minutes. So I'll just hope that you'll bear with me and grant me that indulgence. David Lewis, for the record, members of the town council. On September 3rd, 3 days from today, Block Island Conservancy will mark its 50th anniversary of its incorporation. As is widely known, Block Island Conservancy was formed specifically to lead the effort to save Rodman's Hollow from development. Less well known is the role of the town council in that successful outcome, and that's what I'd like to cover tonight. The key facts are easily described by a timeline. In 1970, Rodman's Hollow changed hands for $75,000. Development was the clear intent of the new owners. In October 1971, the town council made initial contact with the new owners regarding town acquisition. In November 1971, interested islanders and summer residents began the foundational work that would become Block Island Conservancy. In August 1972, an appraisal report set the value at Rodman's Hollow for $109,000. 1 month later, in September 1972, Block Island Conservancy was incorporated. Almost immediately in October, Block Island Conservancy offered to purchase Rodman's Hollow for the appraised $109,000. The owners counted at $160,000. Stalemate followed. In March 1973, an environmental impact statement highlighted the negative impacts of developing Rodman's Hollow. In early March 1974, Block Island Conservancy presented a check to the town for $27,500, which represented the town's 25% match to receive 75% match funding from state and federal sources. On March 4th, 1974, the town council voted unanimously to acquire Rodman's Hollow by condemnation. That resolution of condemnation is recorded in the land evidence records in Book 40, page 27. On April 1st, town ownership was recorded in the land evidence records in Book 40, pages 25 and 26. Subsequently, the previous owners sued the town for the desired $160,000. Settlement was reached 2 years later, in 1976, splitting the disputed difference at a total value of $134,500 plus interest. Block Island Conservancy raised the additional funds to satisfy that settlement. The sitting members of the town council voting unanimously for condemnation were Herbert Whitman, first warden, Jack Dodge, second warden, Lester Littlefield, counselor, Jim Ernst, counselor, Matthew Swenton, counselor. Names that most of us recognize from years ago. Jim, even today. This team of town leaders should be remembered for their role in this important sequence of events. Accordingly, I would ask that my comments be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Thank you. And I have a copy for you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Any more public comment this evening? Yeah.
David, you also have something written up, I believe, on the role that the Conservancy played in the purchase of Mansion Beach?
I do.
Provide that as well. I'm becoming increasingly aware of how many people don't remember these things anymore.
Yes,
or
right.
Perhaps didn't know them.
I have that. Peggy and I are going away tomorrow for the day, so I'll get to that to you Thursday or Friday.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
I trust you'll pass it around as appropriate.
Give it to the clerk's office.
Okay.
Thank you, Martha. Any more public comment this evening?
One thing, Andre. It's kind of Groundhog's Day. If you remember last year, I think it was around this time, where we allowed Aldo's restaurant to continue to have that carousel till Columbus Day weekend. And they promised that it would be gone at that time. And it wasn't, and we had to deal with that again this year, where we told them to take it down. So for our next meeting on the 21st, can I please get a status report on just what's happening with that particular notice of violation? How much fines the town has accumulated, why it's still up, all of the above.
Oh, it's public comment, but the council doesn't discuss items during public comment, but you're more than welcome to have comment.
So do I go up there?
Yes.
All right, so.
Oh, you absolutely have permission under public comment to offer any comment.
I'm confused. I'm confused as to why a carousel for children that gives them so much pleasure would have to be removed when other things are not removed on this island. An innocent carousel that gives so many children from all around the world, all over the country, such joy. It adds to my confusion as to what is allowed on this island and what is not. I'm in shock. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. Could you state your name for the record?
Kim Elizabeth Teresa Mahone.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you, everybody. Item number 2 on the agenda is discuss and act on a memorandum of agreement between the town of New Shoreham and Walter Chip Anderson regarding the interim police chief. Mary Ann?
As the council know, about a month or so ago, I guess around August 15th, I asked that you appoint Walter Chip Anderson as our interim police chief. He's been filling that role since that time. Before you this evening is a memorandum of agreement, which is usually what you do with an interim position. It's basically a little over a page long. And to summarize it, provides a salary of $95,000 and that he continued to keep his current benefits that he has as outlined in the CBA. It also allows Chip to return to his position as a patrol officer once a permanent chief is found. So at this point, I'm asking approval of the council of this document. It has been reviewed by Chip and he is fine with it.
Council have any questions about the MOA? Oh, you want it? Are you looking for it? I don't think I have a packet either, but it's on the clerk's page here.
While they're looking, Mary Ann, is this similar, if not identical, to what we gave the past interim chief?
The last interim chief that was here under my tenure was Matt Monahan, and he was still state police employee, so we did not have an agreement with him.
Any comment? Make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the town of New Shoreham and Walter Chip Anderson regarding the interim police chief.
Second.
Second by Mark. Oh, I have. Okay. Yeah, Martha. Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments from the public?
Just have a person that speak clearly, because I personally, it's hard for me to understand what you say. And sometimes what you say, the way that it's coming across. So we can hear that the words speak slower and project them. That would help me, that would help me help.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
So I made a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement between the town of New Shoreham and Walter Chip Anderson as the interim police chief. That was seconded by Counselor Emmanuel. And is there any public comment on that?
Perfect.
That good?
Much better.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Council, public? All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven? Aye. Martha?
Aye.
Keith? I'm in favor with much thanks for Chip for stepping up at this time. Item number 3 on the agenda is to discuss an act on an amendment to the Block Island Land Trust Rules and Regulations. I see Barbara's in the audience this evening, as well as, Mary Ann too. Could you, I don't know who wants to take the lead on this, but do you want to, did you
Summarize.
summarize? Yeah, Barbara, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Barbara McMullen, Black Island Land Trust. So a month ago, we received a request from someone who had recently purchased a home a year ago, saying that they were not aware that they could take advantage of a first-time homebuyer exemption. And a year had passed. We realized when we were having a conversation about it that we had never faced that situation before, and we didn't have a policy in place for how to handle that. So we came up with the amendment to our rules. Request for a reimbursement of a land trust fee paid because the person realized after the fact that they were subject, they could take advantage of the exemption with a 1-year timeframe in which to do that. We didn't want that to be, and we didn't want 20 years from now, someone coming up and saying, well, I want an exemption from a fee I paid 20 years ago. So we thought a year was fair. And so we've written that into our rules and regulations, so it will be clear for people. And again, I've been on the land trust 20 years. We've never seen this before, but we thought it was prudent to come up with a policy to address it.
Thank you. Could you clarify? Because I thought this was done before if it was under a certain amount of money?
No,
Okay.
so people, first-time home buyers are entitled to an
First time,
exemption.
okay.
The exemption is a full exemption for the first 200,000, half of the value for the next 400,000, and then they pay the full amount for the remainder. First-time home buyer. That's different from affordable housing, which is completely exempt if it's a sanctioned, town sanctioned affordable housing
Sure.
situation. But in this case that came before us, the people who bought the house didn't realize that they could take advantage of the first-time home buyer exemption, paid the fee. A year later, I guess someone told them, I'm not quite sure how they figured it out. So they came to us and said, can we get our fee back? And so we wanted to create a policy that we can use going forward. If this happens again, we have something in place.
Yeah, okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Council? Questions about comments?
Vaguely related. Barbara, has your board discussed recently if that exemption is still an appropriate number?
For the first-time home buyer.
Yeah,
So
because we
about-
increased it about 20 years ago.
So we increased it we changed it probably, I'm gonna guess around 10 years ago. So originally it was a fixed, first 200,000 was exempt, but that was back when you could buy a property for 200,000. So we created the sliding scale approach,
when
which
was-
is,
Because I know the legislation was changed in 2002.
and then I don't have the date within my head, Martha, but it was then changed again to
Okay.
do this.
So you think it's adequate right now?
So the 200,000 is completely exempt. And then you pay a fee on half the fee on the next 400,000, which brings you up to 600,000. And then after that, you pay the full fee.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else? Chris Warfel? Thank you, Barbara.
Chris Warfel, taxpayer, ad hoc member of the Block Island Attainable and Affordable Housing Initiative. I'm asking that you table this motion until the land trust can come back with additional suggestions for what they can do to change their bylaws. From my research that I can get from Clerkbase, it's been over 20 years since their document that we can download has been changed. And tonight, prior to me speaking, I think I heard corroborating information that it's been 20-some odd years since things have been changed. And looking through the document that I downloaded on the enabling regulations and rules, I see things that I think are outdated. Article 8, Section C, .3 refers to the Town of Shoreham Comprehensive Plan of 2002. I believe there has been an updated plan since then. The same section, number 5, a recreation conservation open space plan going back to 1993. I don't know if that's been updated. But in-
Right, Chris,
Yep.
the dates you're reading, are they typed on the sheet?
Yes, they are, sir.
Because they're not on the sheet I have.
Chris, are you talking about the legislation?
Rules and regulations.
Okay,
So the only reason I'm asking is literally I'm looking at section C, number 3, Town of New Shoreham Comprehensive Plan, semicolon.
I have 2002 semicolon.
Oh, I know, yeah. So I don't know. Okay.
I got this off Clerkbase.
Okay.
I believe, or the Land Trust website. In any case, it's the document that we have access to and, form policy based upon that.
Yep, no, I understand.
And if it's not correct, this is why I'm asking you to table this until things can be cleaned up. Pretty much, I know the town council has asked for the land trust to take a look at its methodologies and its mission. And I believe the land trust the town council got the same response that we did, which was basically a non-response. And to me, as a taxpayer, a person who's lived in this island for quite a long time, I don't think that's acceptable. So I would ask you again, table this and ask the land trust to update this document and go back to what was initially asked of them by you and by us to consider ways in which they can actually meet a mission that Article 9 meets the urgency of the island. Number 2 of the same section, public priorities polls. There's quite a bit here that the land trust could do to update its mission in the last 20-some odd years, and no one has been successful in getting them to actually respond in any meaningful way. This is an opportunity to get them to update this document, and to also update, or at least consider through public discussion, ways that they can update their mission. So actually, to not even have a discussion on these things is what is extremely troubling. You can have a public discussion and say to everybody in this town, we have decided not to change a thing. But to not have a discussion and make that statement is wrong. So again, I'd ask you to table this and ask them to update it and to ask them to have a public discussion on things they could do that are in response to the community needs. If they choose to do nothing, that's fine, but have agenda items and be on the record for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Just out of record, I'm looking on Clerkbase now, Chris, and I don't see those dates on there. It's the same sheet I have, so just more as I'm looking at it. No, I'm just saying, I'm saying. And I guess, Barbara, a question, this will affect, the recommended change will affect the owners of the parcel that you're in discussion with, or is that done and over? I'm asking.
No, it won't affect
The ones that
the ones who came to us because
they
we
acquired
wouldn't-
it in the, when the ordinance was.
right, we wouldn't
Yeah.
retroactively apply a change in policy to them. But also to Chris's point, when I even look at the copy I have here, our rules and regulations were amended in 2012. It says right at the top of the page, they were reviewed again in 2019.
Yeah.
So we have throughout the years made changes to our rules and regulations, which are separate from our legislation. So we've not made a change to our legislation since we changed the formula for first-time home buyers to make it a little more flexible with regard to price. And I'd also like to say that we have responded to questions about how we can help with affordable housing. And we've said in letters to the council, to the planning board and so forth, that we are willing and able to work on conservation projects that have an affordable housing component to them, and that we would welcome the opportunity to do so. In fact, we're working with the council now to look for ways to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Barbara. Chris?
I think the reality is that everyone's dealing with different versions of a document. And it would be really good to have the latest version. I thought I had gotten that and made my statements based on that. And I still hold to the, I think the truism that almost all this document has not changed in any meaningful and material way. The responses we got from the Land Trust on the issues that we asked concerning affordable housing and what they could do with it was a non-answer. They did not consider any changes that they would make to their enabling legislation or their rules and regulations to accommodate this urgency, which is actually what they're supposed to be doing. So I feel that I'm correct in asking you to table this and asking them to go back, have public hearings on what they could do to address this issue and other issues. I'm running for the Land Trust because I feel there are a lot of things the Land Trust actually can do and is just not trying hard enough. They have been doing more or less the same thing for over 20 years. They have done great things, and I've acknowledged that, as has almost everybody on this island. But you cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and not realize that eventually, in this case especially, you are causing and exacerbating a problem with affordable housing for people on this island. I mean, it's a mathematical fact. You cannot keep doing this. So as it was said by a counselor on the council, you know, it's time to conserve people. We've conserved the land. We're at least at 50%, I believe. All you're going to do, if you do not force these people to actually have a discussion, is continue to make things more difficult for people who are trying to find affordable housing. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any comments from the council or public?
Well, the only item on the table, actually on the table, is the request that is not going to do anything other than provide a change for people who have missed. I don't know how this has been in place since 1986. It hasn't happened before, but that we know of. This isn't something that's going to benefit the Land Trust in any way, and I don't see any reason to put off something that's very much a one-off issue. This isn't involved in any other kind of policy of the Land Trust of the town.
Yes, please.
The reason is that it's being recorded
Okay,
and
thank you.
there's video.
Thank
So if
you.
you don't speak into the microphone,
Thank you. I heard you.
I'm saying
Thank
this
you.
to everybody in the audience.
Thank
Yep.
you. Have any of you ever been homeless?
Yes.
Have any of you ever been homeless and a worker that's making money for the businesses on this island?
Yes.
It doesn't feel good, does it?
No.
So we need to come together as a community, support one another, and make this a priority, because I, right now, have paid $5,000 for housing because I've been locked out of Mahoney's. And my home has been torn away. So I've been here. I am blessed with the means to get the cash so that I am not homeless. There are workers on this island for 20 years who cannot find housing and have been ousted out because somebody wants to rent. And these are people who are making Block Island a world-renowned special place. And I don't accept it. As a taxpayer of Rhode Island, I don't accept it. I support everything I have heard completely. There has to be change. There has to be change. We have to stop raping this island environmentally, literally and figuratively. And if I may so say it right now, I'm going to Superior Court on Thursday. My mother was killed. I'm sorry. My mother was killed.
I'm gonna have to stop you because
Thank you. All set.
we're
All set.
just,
Thank you so much.
we're discussing land trust issues here.
Yeah, thank you so
So,
much.
but I appreciate your
Thank you.
comments.
Thank you so much.
Any more comments from the council? Or Chris, one more?
I'd just like to respond to Mark Duvall's comment that this is basically a one-off situation. Actually, as the town council, you have the power and I hope the wisdom to see that there's a connection between this and the rest of the regulations that affect the land trust, and use the power of the council to table this motion to require the land trust to respond in a way that did not respond to you, nor did they respond to us in any meaningful way. So it's not a one-off, and I hope that you ask, you vote to table this motion until you get something meaningful back in other areas, which should have been given to you many, many months ago through your request and our request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andre, I agree we can proceed on this particular item without tabling anything, but I understand what you're saying, Chris. As I went through this document, I think that if we just include under Article 8B, another bullet point or another number under acquisition criteria, and to include affordable/attainable housing significance with all the other half dozen priorities that are on there. That's a start for dialogue and maybe amending this document.
Good. Sir.
Yeah, how about, only because the land trust should recommend that to us, and I think that's sort of where Chris has been going. How about if we take those words, give them to Barbara and ask the land trust to come back to us as to why they shouldn't be in there? And that would be a discussion for, a next meeting. I just don't know that we want to be writing their rules and regs, but I think it's a great way to give that as please respond.
Yep, it was meant to open up dialogue. Yep.
Yep. And that's why I would do it rather than us crafting their approach.
Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion. You want to make a motion or? I don't know. You want to make?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment before us of the Block Island Land Trust rules and regulations. It's an amendment to Article 14 of the Land Trust rules and regs pertaining to refunds of land trust fees.
Second. Yeah.
My suggestion would be I like that, unless you want to also include, can they come back with a response to?
I actually don't. I mean, I think
Okay.
if we want to ask the land trust to do something, they've been responsive, let's ask them.
Yeah, good. I'd rather do it as a
I
separate.
don't, I mean, I think it's, I agree with Martha.
Yeah.
This is,
just
this
go.
is not something that is leverage over the land trust. In fact, if we don't act on this, we're potentially harming someone who might have been eligible. They're two different things.
Yep. We're having a vote.
What's that?
There's a motion on the table.
There is.
Yeah, there's a motion on the table and it has been seconded. If you want to answer, Mr. Waffle, that's fine, but you don't have to.
No, vote. I'm-
Keith said what I was trying to say. Keith said what I was trying to say. The only person who could be impacted by this would be someone who has been able to purchase a house and for some reason wasn't aware that there was an exemption, and it would save that home purchaser, first-time home purchaser, several $1,000s. Is the likelihood of that is slim, but I don't think we should close any doors. And it would be doing the exact reverse of what everyone seems to be arguing for,
Motion made, seconded.
not passing.
Motion been made and
Call the
seconded.
question.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
And I'm in favor of it also, just for the reasons, as was stated by Councilors Ball and Stover. I don't want to hold up somebody else's issue by interjecting a lot more issues into that. I do agree that a conversation should be had and these rules could be updated, but before us tonight is what a person who's already a first-time home buyer. A policy has been changed. I support that policy. But it's not before us. Their rules aren't before us tonight. That one little bit of the rules is that I do support. But I do also think that, if you want to look over, update everything, I think everybody would appreciate it, but that's not the vote here tonight. So I'm in favor. Martha,
Aye.
Keith? Called you right, Sven? Okay, motion will carry 5-0. You're welcome. Chris, go ahead.
May I request an agenda item for the land trust to come before the town council? That you ask the land trust to come before you with possible modifications as we have discussed tonight. Because I understand your vote and, you're right. We're dealing with a special situation, and maybe to extrapolate to the general this is not the way to do it. But if you do not bring them to the table, I know from experience, they will not come here and willingly discuss anything that we have asked them to do and you have asked them to do. So would you please consider an agenda item asking them to do this? And if they decide not to do it, at least they'll be on the record for that. And that is something for a public discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Item number 4 on the agenda is to act on the pledge to keep Rhodey litter free. We've gotten a pledge, we've gotten a request to do just that. The Governor, the First Lady, I'll read the note. As you know, the Governor, the First Lady, Lady Susan McKee, launched Keep Rhodey Litter Free, the first statewide anti-litter initiative this year. We've been partnering around the state to increase awareness of the importance of keeping our ocean state clean. It is imperative that each community take the pledge and to commit to a cleaner, litter-free place to live. Your help is accomplishing the goal is greatly appreciated. We encourage you to take the pledge today. Every day counts and every person is needed to make our goals a reality. If you are coordinating cleanup in your area, please be sure to send your information to the Keep Litter Free website so others can join your efforts. Thank you in advance for your support and participation. Any comments?
Yeah, this is a great time to highlight some wonderful Block Islanders. I want to highlight all the Trudys, Peters, Janets, Davids, and members of our police department. If you haven't seen them, and so many others who over the course of the year, and certainly more so in the summer, are out there with their plastic bags, picking up all the litter on the island. Thank you.
And a lot more people. A lot more.
What's the motion? I mean, obviously, we'd like to take the pledge to keep roadie litter free. Do we have is there anything, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to actually read the pledge. Is there?
Andre
Exactly.
Boudreau will take care of this quadrant of Pawtucket.
That's fine, that's darling. Well, those nuns won't want me back, that's for sure. Oh, it was kind of intended that way. She was, I know, she was just kind of. I was asking what the motion would be to keep, for the pledge to keep roadie litter free. And I guess I'd follow that up with, what does the town have to do to act on this?
I was just out of curiosity, sort of looking for the pledge, and I can't find it.
Okay, okay, then
But
it's not just
I
me.
assume it's that we're gonna pledge not to litter and to.
This,
Oh, shouldn't
yeah,
there be a link? Shouldn't there be a link?
That's what I thought there was.
yeah, I found something, the link, and I can work with the town clerk. It's just asking for the name, email, primary point of contact, select the municipality, and then letter is important to us because if the council wants to give us something, or I can work with even Kim and other folks on this. And it says, our community will, and it says check all, and there's about a half dozen things. So if you want, just turn this back to the town manager and staff will take care of it.
And those, just so you know, those 6 are never litter, remind family and others never to litter. I mean, it sort of goes through non-littering programs. So you want to make a motion?
You got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion that the town of New Shoreham supports the Keep Roadie Litter Free pledge.
Second. Discussion.
I'm sorry I'm commenting so much, and then I'm not sorry. Environmentally, cigarettes kill birds. They peck at a cigarette and a bird can die. We are all responsible. If we see it, we pick it up. So the pledge is real for every one of us.
That's why we're supporting it. We agree.
Thank you.
So that's why.
Thank you. Thank you. But the snickering and the joking over it, it's not a joke. Littering and the environment and what it blows into the ocean, and then you know what happens. You're very educated, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, Keith? Yes. Martha?
Aye.
I am in favor. Sven?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5 is discuss and act on awarding the bid for the Highways Department truck. Mary Ann?
So what's before you this evening is to order bid to Tasker Ford in the amount of $28,195. This is a master price agreement. That's a statewide bid master price agreement for a 2023 Ford Ranger 4x4. To provide the council with a little bit of background, this is the smallest truck of the fleet, and it's mainly used for the beach area and smaller roads. The current vehicle we have is a 2006, has 120,000 miles, so it's well over 16 years old. The inspection sticker on this vehicle expires on May 2023, and all indications are that it will not pass. I mean, to have this truck for 16 years with 120,000 miles, I think is pretty impressive. So I'm requesting that the council award this bid this evening.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Comments from the council?
It's in the budget, right? That's-
Yes.
Make a motion, we award the bid for the purchase of a 2023 Ford Ranger 4x4 in the amount of $28,195 to Tasker Ford.
Second, oh, good, Keith.
Motion made and seconded by Keith. Comments? All those in favor, Keith? Martha? I'm in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda, discuss an act to award bid for reval services to Vision Government Solutions. Mary Ann?
So before you, the finance director did provide the council with a detailed memo in this regard. This is the 10-year update that we are required to do. And there's an option number 4 and 5 that we would like the council would also, which is the required statistical update. The total amount for the proposed reval is $118,500. Option 4 is the $59,000, and option 5 are both these are statistical updates is $62,000. As a note of reference, in this award, we're asking that $8,500 of this be taken from the contingency fund that we have on budget of $50,000. When the council makes the motion, I would respectfully request that you include in your motion the amount of $8,500, I'm sorry, from the contingency budget.
Thank you. Questions from the council?
I have
Keith?
I have a couple. Just one quick housekeeping one. The 59 and the 62 for the statistical updates, will those will occur in those budget years?
That is correct.
Then the other thing is sort of more macro level, and that is, I'm not sure I agree that I want to know what the math is on the interior inspection deletion.
Mhm.
Because, property taxes are, not necessarily fair, but they are what we use. But clearly they're more fair the higher the quality of the appraisal. And having seen some of the levels of interior finishes, interior appliances, all those sorts of things, it occurs to me that deleting the $21,000 may end up in an odd way, making our property tax system less progressive, because we will be undervaluing certain properties, and therefore what happens is you overvalue other properties. So I almost would like to, before we act, get a sense of the math and get a sense of where the money would come from for that, because I think over the course of the 10-year cycle, we may well accrue more than $21,000 in values in our property tax base.
So the finance director and I had that same discussion earlier today, and the aggregate valuation to make up that $21,000 or the cost of that $21,000 is about $4 million. If we were to include the interior inspection of the $21,000, that also would be requested to come out of the contingency fund also. Amy is in the meeting via Zoom if you have any other specific questions in that regard, but we went back and forth on that same issue earlier today.
With the premise?
We do. Amy, do you want to add anything to that at this point?
I think you've summarized it clearly, Marianne, and I think that 21,000 versus the 4 million of assessed value that you'd need to pick up to essentially recapture that cost is within a likely achievable range, meaning we can very easily, I think, recover that cost over time. It's just a matter of the disconnect between an annual budget and something that's spread over a much longer duration. So if the council were able to make room for that in the 23 budget, that would be a $29,500 draw from the contingency, which is budgeted at $50,000. It does constrain you for the rest of this budget year, but I do believe that over time you would be recovering that in additional tax revenue.
So if I still have the floor, I don't need to add much to what I said, except that now we've heard the numbers. It appears to me that at least over the long term, including interior inspection, makes sense for our property tax base. We all drive by and see the some of the extraordinary houses that are being built. And the interiors are just as significant investment as the exteriors. And for me, this really does come down to sort of a fundamental fairness. If you put in IKEA kitchen cabinets, you are essentially going to be taxed the same as someone who puts in custom cherry cabinets in their interior. Which, if you're driving toward a system that is as fair as you can make it, sets that effort back.
Thanks, Keith. So,
Yeah, I'm right. I had not gone there, Keith, and I appreciate it. I think having been in some of those houses you're talking about, and actually I remember Andre was talking about one a few years ago. I think we should get those inspections done and make sure it's equitable. I know it's going to be a lot of work because the seasonality and closed houses, but that's their problem. Amy, or Marianne, can we spread that out over the years rather than the 29,000 coming year?
Goods and services will be done during this fiscal year.
Could that go slowly?
My motion would be to approve the award of the contract division, but add back $21,000 for the interior inspection, and taking that and the $8,500 difference. For the statistical.
Second.
motion has been made and seconded. Is there any comments from the council?
Yeah, Amy, dumb that down for all of us as far as contingency. That eats up to about 60% of the contingency already.
Roughly, correct. And that is generally available for the council's discretion throughout the year. So again, it may preclude you from something down the road. The offset is, as we get further into the fiscal year, there will be other areas where we've identified potential savings. And so we get better at juggling one line item or department against the other. If I can make one other comment, Andre?
Go ahead.
Just
You got
on
the floor.
behalf of, thank you. On behalf of the Board of Assessors, they recognize the budgetary impact in the current year, but did want to express that their default preference is to have those interior inspections done from, just a baseline of good assessing practices. They were willing to make an accommodation, but that is their preference to have those interior inspections.
Thank you, Amy. Hold on, Bill.
So is it correct, we've never had interior inspections before?
I don't know the answer.
No, we've had interior inspections before. What happened, why this became a possible option is with COVID, they started leaving out they weren't doing interior inspections. So it's something that the valuation companies are now exploring since they was able to do them during COVID.
So just because I don't understand the process, so like in the past, you could, when they would come to your house, they'd ask if we can go through it, and I always did, because I figured it's my kind of go through it. So this would basically mean it would be like a mandated that they would go through every house on the reval and do the assessment based on, like Keith had said earlier.
So the way that I look at it, Bill, is the normal course is to do interior inspections. There was a menu that included the potential to opt out of interior inspections. My motion was to add that back in. Does that help?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kim?
I think my question was answered. I don't recall ever noticing interior inspections. I was wondering if this meant that every house is now going to have an annual interior inspection.
One of the challenges with assessments is that they happen every 10 years. So what the decisions you make about what you inspect now have a real impact over the course of 10 years. So if we opt out of this, opt out of doing interior inspections, that is a category of value that will be missing. And I just, for me, I think, as Sven says, having seen some of the interiors, I think we ought to be conducting a evaluation of those interiors.
And I don't want to take that lightly. So it's not
No.
about some houses that are beautiful, it's just
Right.
the equitability of it. I mean, to your IKEA cabinets, which I think are just fine.
Yeah.
Not everybody does, and let's just make sure everything's valued
Right.
appropriately. Yeah.
And that means that each one of our homes in this room, correct? Will be, that's what I wanted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
When is the next, a cycle for like, I know they would do like a property comparison and they would do a full reevaluate where they actually, you know what the date is for the full reevaluation?
I can answer
This is the
that.
full revaluation this time. This one is a full reevaluation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we should say.
Motion made second. Any more comments? All those in favor, Keith?
Yes.
Martha? I'm in favor. Sven?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7 is discuss and act on Orsted agreement regarding Fred Benson's on Beach South parking lot.
Yeah, we've had a glorious summer with little or no rain until now. And one of the stipulations with our easement or agreement on that south parking lot of the State Beach was to evaluate all the hard work that was done by so many people to mitigate the ponding that takes place over the years or has been. So seeing as we haven't had much rain, I was wondering if we can get an extension on that agreement so we can get a real test on it. And that's why I brought this to the town manager's attention.
Marion, is there any comment on that?
So
or
yeah,
update?
just as a reminder to the council, we did have some fairly significant rain events in the spring, and the south parking lot was fine. I talked to Dave Sniffen today, and there's been no puddling or ponding or anything like that. Orsted does have a permanent easement on that property as part of the agreement. They'll be working there. The temporary easement as well as a permanent easement does state that they would return the parking lot into the original conditions. So I'm pretty comfortable with what we have in place and how it's currently working.
Is there a deadline on that?
It's a
Marion?
permanent easement. To always do come in, and if they need to do maintenance and stuff like that on the cable and things that are underground.
I will say, when we drove by this afternoon, my wife did comment about how it was dry. So I know it wasn't a ton of rain. At least it wasn't like it's been in the past.
I was just hoping to keep the town covered, that's all.
Thanks, Mark. Any other comments? Hearing none. Update on the police chief search. Marion, could you just give us a quick update on that?
Applicants, it closes on the 12th, which is a week from yesterday, and we have received some applicants, and we'll see what happens in the coming week. I've had people call and inquire to me about it, and that's about it I have to report at this point.
Do you have a timeline? Do you think that we may have a new police chief or interviews or?
Well, depending on how many applicants we get and how many we decide to interview, hopefully by the 1st of October, we'll have a recommendation to you.
Thank you. Council have any questions or comments?
Just want to remind the town manager that we would like to get this taken care of before the swearing in of the new town council.
Thanks, Mark.
Let's check, some of you feel that way. I was on the council that was the beneficiary of a hurried town manager search. And I cannot say enough about how wrong things can go and how unfair it is to everyone involved.
regards to the new chief? Is this appropriate?
Police, update on the police, we're only getting an update on the police chief search, but if you have any comment
I
on
do.
a police
I
chief
want to
search,
be transparent
yep,
that the acting chief and Pat Moynihan are going to Superior Court.
yeah, it's not an update on the police chief.
Okay, I'm suggesting that the next police chief is vetted. So this doesn't get repeated again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments on the update on the police chief search? Next item on the agenda is discuss and act on the formation of a police chief search committee. How does the council feel about that? And, all right, go ahead, Keith. Oh, just. Oh, all right.
And poised.
As I, go, any comment?
What's the conversation supposed to be?
It's just, it's the discussion and the action on, and act on formation of the police chief committee, police chief search committee.
The
I-
town manager's not doing this?
I'm asking if the town council would like to act on the formation of the police chief search committee. I will then ask the town manager if she has discussed forming a police chief search committee.
I'm just going to reference comments David made some months ago that at some time or another, before it gets to our table to advise and consent, that we have as much input as possible as to what we desire out of that next police chief.
I'll add to that. I want a police chief who is going to be able to prioritize what needs to be done in this town, who will take direction from the town manager, not from anybody on the street, and who understands the laws and who passes all of the background checks. I don't want this to become a political, I want this, no, I want this, no, I want this. That's not the way anything ever gets done.
Well, we've seen a poor police chief and we've seen an example of a terrific police chief. I think we have a pretty good understanding about what we want.
Yeah, it's on. So for what it's worth, come at this, any of these searches that I think the search is as much about providing the applicants with information and background and color on where they're gonna live and work as it is us learning about them. So I would just reiterate what I said a couple of weeks ago, and that is, I think there would be some value in having someone involved in the search committee who has been a police chief here, whether that's, you know, and lived here and sort of lived it mostly as a resource and sounding board for the committee and for the potential applicants.
Thanks, Keith. Any other comments from the council? Public comments? David and then Rosemary.
Thank you for letting me go first, everybody, because I just wanted to reference Mark's reference about my comment several weeks ago. And I appreciate Mark remembering that, but I just want to make it very clear what I intended and tried to convey, and I think I was successful. You've hired a manager, a capable manager to do the job. I believe in the role of advising consent, but the role of advising takes place before she sets down a path, so she understands what's on your minds and what your generalized expectations of her are. Not that she necessarily would agree or follow them, but your advice to her is the value that you provide to her. Consent, hopefully thereafter, would be an automatic, because she has melded her investigation, her hiring methodology to the generalized requirements that you have laid before her. And that was the point of the fact that that conversation should happen before the fact, not after the fact. In the light of, I would also now, since we've come through the summer of 2022 and we can all breathe a little bit easier, I have an additional thought that I would convey to council. One of the things I worry about myself is Matt Moynihan has created, Martha will recognize this, Matt Moynihan, in my view, has put him in the position of some of the professionals we've had in this community back since when we were kids. Most doctors have always had to be compared to Wade Ortel, 63 to 65. Same with ministers in the church and parish priests. There's always somebody comes in and sets a standard that the subsequent people try very hard to achieve, and appropriately so. I think it's very important that town manager and the town police chief reached a budget last year with certain priorities that they agreed to were important to the community. And she and the council passed a budget that supported certain programs going forward with certain emphases. And I think it's important that you and she revisit that discussion at some point before the fact, so you can all agree that, again, using my words, if Matt Moynihan has set a standard to be followed, that you all agree that that in fact is a worthwhile goal, but not necessarily that any individual can achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Could I just add something to what David just said? And I just think that we forget, though, that Wade came in after we hadn't had a doctor for a year. We had a couple of ministers, a priest who came in after we'd been in chaos for a while. And that's the piece of it that we always leave out. And
Well,
Matt
I think
came in at a bad time.
whether it gets left out is,
But it's important, though. It's
It is
an part of
important.
the narrative.
I don't leave it out of my own thinking, because I don't want to cite chapter and verse, but there are plenty of professionals who come up and do an admirable job in their own right. But it's important to recognize when a standard of performance has been set.
Go ahead, sir. Rosemary, do you have a comment?
Fortunately, my 16 years, I never had to hire a police chief, but I did fire chiefs and public works directors and all the rest. It sounds like you've done some preliminary work through the last year's budget process. You do have a town administrator. I would echo, I know what he was going to say, but that sometimes the island has a proclivity for committees. And I think that all of you have been here for a while. I think Councilmember Stover is probably the newbie on the dais in terms of longevity here. You probably have done a pretty good body of work reflected in your budgetary choices last year. You've got a town manager. I would suggest that you allow her to consult or talk to people that have further expertise than perhaps she has in this whole area, and then have her come back with some recommendations. I mean, she's already said that a lot depends on what kind of pool of applicants you get. I can't speak enough about vetting. And vetting, in my terms, where you always send your best detectives to the community where the candidates come from to really start talking to people. But there's got to be a connection between what you've said and the community said are your priorities for public safety, and who's the candidate that would best be able to bring that to fruition for you. So.
I hope right now, because I'm ready to throw up, that you don't shut me off. Because there's an elephant in the middle of this room that you all keep saying, be quiet to. It is documented from the governor to the attorney general, to the state police, to the Block Island Police, that last year it was brought to the attention of all of them that there was roofing and raping going on in this island.
Okay, you know what?
Thank you. You just,
No, it's not that I want to hear it. It's not what's on the discussion this evening.
you're talking about.
We're talking about a
hiring new
police chief
people,
search committee.
But you're talking, okay, it is public right now. You have
Yes.
shut me off, so I have given you a chance.
No, I think you've had the chance.
Good day.
Good evening to you as well, but we're talking about the police chief search committee here.
That's your whole part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. People are being raped and you're brushing it under the table. Good night.
Hey,
Your bag.
Oh, thank you, because that's for the documents.
I want to leave that.
You're all being exposed. Just know that. I
Okay.
have told you, you are all being exposed for being part of the problem. Not
Thank you.
the ones for the solution, but part of the problem.
Thank you for
You're
the
the
answer.
laughing stock of America right now.
Thank you. Okay, so, police chief search committee.
So if I can say one thing, what Keith said earlier, which is the island and what that means to families and what that means to, and I'm talking about the chief's family or former town manager families or whatever. I think that is something that we may all have mentally moved here because we love the island or grew up here. And we don't always, in the past, I'm not sure we have always taken full understanding of when professionals move here, what that means to their families, the stresses that puts on families. I think that's something we should have in the search committee, is the ability to fully appreciate that, whether it's the last interim chief or the last chief, former town manager. We've seen this now a number of times. And so I do think as the search committee's formed, which is the topic of the agenda, that we should really acknowledge and make sure that that's included in the process. And I think the town manager's there. And I also think that there is a real value of, personally, I think there's a real value of Rhode Island State Police connectivity, because we've seen it back and forth, and having a relationship with Rhode Island State Police has been very important for the island, even when we've had some stresses in that. And then lastly, I actually have a lot of confidence that we'll get to a good chief based on the processes that I've seen in the last proposed interim chief, which did not come through, but then even in the interim chief that was appointed and agreed on with the town manager. So I'm pretty good with where we are, personally.
So the only issue I had with the last search committee and the way that turned out, well, because of the way it turned out, and we had 2 town employees that were on that committee who were directly under the supervision of the town manager. And then we had a couple of people from the mainland who don't know Block Island at all. And we were presented with a candidate that this group chose for us, and that didn't work out. So all I want to see is people who live here, people who have who know what it's like to actually live here year round and have that explained to these candidates. People with compassion for the public safety of Block Island. I think that a lot of the police, I think that a police chief search committee should actually sit with the police advisory committee and the town manager, because it's pretty much what we do. They're looking for a charge, so to speak. They're all been appointed by us. They all live here year round. That would be my input to a search committee. But it's just basically just that, is people that live here year round, people who know what it's like. Maybe so, I don't know if you're gonna find anybody in law enforcement. I do want to note that I believe that the last of the troopers left today, or to go back for the season, from the season. I know you mentioned that, and they were a terrific help,
huge.
and always are every single summer. So I think that would be my input on a police chief search committee, whether or not we form it or Mary Ann forms it, but the last one didn't work out too well. So this is our opportunity to have the input on that, and we should take the opportunity. Rosemary?
I know this is a very sensitive issue, but whatever the group is that works with the town manager, I think there ought to be some research and that vetting about a chief's experience in enforcing laws that are on the books. And that's all I'll say, but that's a tough part of the job, but it's really needed on Block Island in a lot of different arenas. And I think it's an important question to be asked and to find out what's their track record been for enforcing the laws of the land, wherever it is.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I know that's part of the whole, what people
Yeah.
expect on the island, you know. However, I can say that that is well within the purview of the town manager to direct that.
Yep.
However, it's a staffing issue. And I think what we need is a police chief who can prioritize in conjunction with the town manager what areas need to be more enforced or more attention to for the benefit of the town. But I think it's a staffing issue. When, like, you know, last weekend, we literally had 2 officers. 2 officers for the weekend. That's not including the state police help.
And what I would say with great empathy for the jobs that you're doing is, budget is a reflection of what the elected officials, the leadership of the town think is important. So I always say to somebody, look at the town's budget, look at the city's budget. That will tell you what they value. So put money where priority is.
So if I can say something, just Andre, real quickly, I actually was speaking with the town manager today and said almost that statement, which is we need, as we look at the budget, enforcement's got to be really included in there. I believe that we did a good job. There may be debate about it, but I believe we did a good job of increasing the budget. I think we did a yeoman's job of helping the New Shore Police Department. It has become clear to me that enforcement, to Andre's point, is a resource issue. We need to fund that resource or stop talking about enforcement. And so therefore, I'm looking forward as the budget comes for next year, so we can also prepare for it in planning on that. And unfortunately, that's a tax, burden, or it's a choice burden that we have to make. But if we're going to talk about enforcement, we need to make sure those bodies are there, and that can't come from somebody that's trying to also, helps security of something and safety of something. So, sorry.
Well, if I recall correctly, the 2 largest line item percent increases in the budget were the police department and the medical center. So if that's your gauge, I think we've sent the message.
Yeah, and especially is is there sufficient funds to accomplish what their expectations are?
Right.
We had a 13,
I was just going to say, in the context of a 4% levy cap.
I know about 1%. Yeah, so.
And-
Well,
and-
I look forward to some detailed sort of, quite frankly, not kind of macro level commentary on the budget next year, because with great respect, I mean, yes, we invested a lot in police. We did.
It was 13% in operating, and there was a significant amount in capital as well. And things were shifted around. There were a lot of things. This is what happens when, in most departments, when you have a turnover, you find out things haven't happened in 15 years that you they thought were happening. So we had a big increase. We did. And again, we can put, to have the absolute enforcement that everybody says they want, you'd have to have one person for every policeman on one policeman for every person on this island. You've got to have, I think I'm up against the wall with frustration on the scatteredness of the approach that we seem to have toward everything. We have to do everything, and the police aren't going to be able to do anything. They can't do everything in any city in this country. I mean, people may be delusional about that, but I absolutely do not believe it. I do not believe that littering is a problem, and we should all take a better hand in that. But there are lots of things that are a lot more important. And I think that's up to the police to determine what they can handle, when they can handle, what is the most efficient use of their time. We've seen it. We've heard people criticize the police because they haven't done certain things. When, if you have any idea of any clue in the amount of paperwork that's involved, there's a reason you only have one arrest when there could be 4.
Andre, my only comment is support what you said. We should have more local people involved with this decision. And I'd like to see the police advisory committee be a big part of it too.
Bill McComb, thanks, Mark.
I realize we want to fill that position quickly, yeah, but I think the problem is we'll put a time span on it. I think we rush things. I think we need to allow the town manager the appropriate time, and she should appoint someone when she finds the right person, not be geared by just a date. I think she knows it's a priority. I think that's the most important thing, that she's allowed to take the time to vet and find the right person.
Thank you, Bill. Sven, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quickly, just because it's on the record, I'm not in favor of the Police Advisory Commission being part of the process because that's not what their charter was. That's not sort of what their role was. Their role was clearly to help out in this in a transitional period and help the chief out. I look forward to them helping the new chief out, but I don't see that group as the charter. So I mean, it's just how they were formed, sort of like, you know, let's pick the planning board and have the planning board help out. And I don't see that. I understand the sarcasm there. Marianne, do you have any comment or on the committee or any thoughts on what you're going? You don't know is a good answer, but.
Not at this point. I think you're all familiar with the first search committee that I did put together, which included a sitting chief for over 20 years in waterfront communities and was chair of the Post, town manager for 15 years.
Because I can never, I'm sorry, because I can never remember. Can you do the Post acronym?
Oh, now you're asking a tough question.
I know, I can't ever get it right.
Police officers, that's it. That's pretty close.
I think it's really important because we always say that. And we know sort of, we know what it is, but.
And the
in
gentleman,
words.
and the chief we had on the committee was was chair of that committee and was very much involved with the regulations. And then I asked 2 town employees, which it's my understanding the council would prefer not to have town employees. The 2 town employees that I picked collectively together have lived on the island for 51 years. And also now collectively, the 2 of them have worked for the town for 31 years. So I looked at town employees that can explain what it's like to live on the island, work for the island, have their children go to school through the island. But I can understand the council would prefer not to have town employees on this committee. So based on that, I haven't picked anyone yet. I'm waiting to get all the applicants in before I move forward.
Just for the record, I am not opposed. I'm not opposed to town employees. I don't think the Police Advisory Commission is the appropriate body. was concerned when this came back in the charter because I was afraid, and it seems to have played out to fruition, that people were looking at police advisory the way police advisory was before we had a manager council form of government. Back when the police commission did work on the budget, did work on interviewing, they did a lot of hands-on work. We did not have a manager then, and we do now. And I think it's been 30 years, 32, 3 years, whatever years. It's about, we really got to start, operating by the charter we all said we wanted so long ago. I haven't landed that tangent, but it's the end of the rant.
Any other comments, public, council? All right, well, we'll see how it plays out. And Marion, will you let us know when you're starting to form your committee?
I will.
Thank you. Item number 10 is discuss liquor regulation and permitting. Keith had asked this be on there. I'm not sure
It's
we're ready tonight.
not yet ready.
Yep. All right. We'll move on after that. Item number 11 is discuss and act on boards, commission, committees, and announce the vacancies for those boards, committees, and commissions and committees. I will announce the Commission for Motor Vehicles for Hire, a 1-3-year position. Individual must not hold a taxi, town taxi, bus, or limousine license. There are 3 2-year terms on the Deer Task Force. There is 1 5-year position on the Planning Board. There is 1 5-year position on the Police Advisory Commission, and a 1-year term on the Recreation Board. We did receive a letter from an individual.
Can I just interrupt?
You might not have to. I'm just wondering. If
Oh,
it's been 30
okay.
days.
Okay. Gotcha. I just didn't-
Hold on. I was going to say, we did get a letter from an individual who has an interest in serving on the planning board, but I want to ask the clerk if that planning board position, refresh my memory, if it's been a month.
It actually is on the agenda for appointments, so I do have to say first.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of that.
Oh, I said that, I do have it slated for the next meeting, which is the 21st. To make that appointment.
Okay.
That letter came in after we drafted the agenda, and I didn't have. appointment of nurse on the agenda.
Oh, I understand. Okay, so we can't make that appointment
Yeah,
tonight.
that's
Okay, thank you. So that's the update on the boards, committees, and commissions and committees. Anybody would like to serve on any of those, feel free to let us know. Item number 12 is approve the minutes of August 1st, 2022, August 11th, 2022, open and closed, August 17th, 2022 at 5, August 17th, 2022 at 7, August 22nd, 2022. If anybody has any amendments or changes to closed session meetings, we will have to go into closed session to do that.
Andre, can I suggest we do them one at a time?
You want to do them all one at a time?
One at a time.
Does
please.
anybody have, at the moment, additions or deletions or any changes to closed session meetings?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of August 1st, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Keith?
Yes.
Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Sven? Mark?
Aye.
Motion will carry 5-0. Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th. Open.
Second.
Seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven? I'm in favor. Martha?
Aye.
And Keith? Motion will carry 5-0.
No parking signs up there anymore.
And they pulled in and started parking. Apparently they pulled in and started parking right away.
And we didn't need to vote.
Motion to approve the minutes of August 11th, 2022, closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Keith? Mark?
Aye.
Martha? Sven? I am in favor. Motion will carry 5-0. Motion to approve the minutes of August 17th, 2022, 5 PM. Second by Keith.
I have a couple modifications. On item number 7,
August 17th at
17th.
5.
Item 7, bullet point 5. Bike lanes on Corn Neck, it was bike lanes on the entire island, not just specific to Corn Neck Road.
I wasn't at that meeting. Can anybody, does anybody have an issue with that?
And
And just say bike roads.
Super. On item 8, bullet point. Bullet point 6, encourage female applicants and minorities. Please include that.
Don't we have a form of language that is affirmative action? Yes.
And add an extra bullet point to the end.
Mark, hold on a second. Martha's commented to your.
I mean, that was a person said that, and I suppose we can write down everything that we said, but the idea that we're picking out particular characters, one who that I personally think should.
Give me an alternative.
I don't know, why would diverse? Look, I just don't think you should be that specific.
Well, what was said at the meeting? These are the minutes for a meeting.
And I said, yeah, go over this stuff.
About encourage diversity among applicants.
Millie? I'm just wondering if you could offer input, that's all.
That ain't the intent.
I think Mark's point was about diversity. And if this could though be a very, exactly what I said. So, but I think Mark was trying to get diversity. From what I remember.
So rewrite bullet point number 6 to encourage diversity among applicants. And to add a bullet point at the end that was not put in there. I guess I can't, unless there's a consensus that we did agree on this. Selection finalized before new town council is sworn in.
No. You may have said it, I don't agree. I'd like it, and you and Andre have said it a number of times. We'd all like it, and I'm sure Chip would love it, but let's get the right guy, or gal, or person. I did that quickly, personages, I don't mean that, yeah. I don't.
Okay, I'll lose that battle.
I think if we cannot find a new police chief by December, early December, we're gonna have there's gonna be a lot more problems than what we know right now. Because that's when we leave.
That's my modifications, that's all.
You want to make a motion to, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 17th at 5 with suggested corrections.
That was a
7 o'clock meeting.
It says 5 to 6:30. Oh, I'm sorry, it's in the same time, it's in the same time. I apologize. You're right, I'm wrong. 7 o'clock.
All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
I am also in favor. Martha? And Keith?
Yes.
Motion will carry 5-0. Motion to approve the minutes of August 22nd, 2022. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Keith?
One modification or one addition on the final page. Right after discussion ensued near the end, could you please include Mr. Emmanuel advocated for revocation of both entertainment and liquor licenses?
The only question is, these were notes from show cause hearing, so there was direct stenography of that meeting, and Millie, how does that work between minutes and stenographic?
So we'll be adding the transcripts to as an addendum to the 7 minutes. The session specifically chose not to include any commentary in here. For those reasons, just listing who testified and not stating what they said. You guys say, but they are your minutes, so I will address accordingly. I did take advice from the attorney.
Yeah, that was sort of why I asked, because we don't want to have emotions in this one or any commentary.
So there's going to be a transcript.
Attached to it, so it's in the transcript.
So
So your
unless
comments,
someone goes through a long transcript, 6 hours,
Lawyers will-
6 hours was that night? Yeah, but somebody else who's reading this at a later date won't know that at least one counselor was advocating for a stricter enforcement without reading the transcripts from a 6-hour meeting.
But I think that'll come playing out as we go through the whole program. I mean, I don't know that there was just one counselor looking for stricter enforcement.
I was the only one who brought it up that night. We can all agree.
motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Keith? Martha? I am in favor. Mark?
No,
And Sven?
Aye.
Motion will carry 4-0.
4-1.
4-1, sorry. Do that all the time. Item number 13 is discuss and act on Cultural Heritage Partners update on South Fork and Revolution Wind Farm. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A2, sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. I'll make a motion to go into closed session. Seconded by Keith. I will note that if any decisions are made, or if anything, if we can say anything about it, we will do so at the end of the discussion.
Any general idea what the item is?
Yeah. Basically, I don't know, Mary Ann or Keith, you want to?
I'll do 13. I'm not sure what the update is, but we have engaged Cultural Heritage Partners, which is representing the town, the Southeast Lighthouse, some historic properties on the mainland, to engage with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management through their permitting process. And there's a working group that has been assigned by the council to work with them, and it's Mary Ann, myself, Tom Reeson, I think just the 3 of us. And we just provide regular updates, and given that there's fairly likelihood at some point that one of these, that someone may litigate it, they ask us to have it in a closed session.
I am. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would, cultural resources is really important and it can make or break a project. And I hope this time around that the town will be much more strategic about what it should receive in acceptance of a project.
Thank you. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, Keith? Martha?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we can wrap that up into one motion. Okay, so item 13 and 14, act on town manager's evaluation conducted on July 26, 2022. This may be held in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A1. Any discussion of job performance, character, physical, and mental health of a person or persons, provided that such persons or persons affected shall have been notified in advance of writing and advised that they may require that the discussion be held in an open meeting. Marion, would you like this in an open meeting or a closed session? Closed session. I will make a motion to go into closed session on items 13 and 14. I'm going to redo my original motion, just scratch that. Make a motion to go into closed session on items 13 and 14. Seconded by Keith. All those in favor? Mark?
Aye.
Keith? Martha? Sven? I'm in favor.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
What? Liquor. No, it was, well, it was the banners. It was the banners. Yeah, it was the 11th. It was the 11th.
Like really weird.
completion of the
Oh, actually, no, wait. So, yes, I would make the motion that we. Yes. I was already motion that we, give the. Yes. Yes.
No. Aye.
Out of closed session and going. I don't have to hold you.
you just make a motion, yeah, motion to go out of closed session.
Before we go into open, so, one vote taken.
Yeah, we've been live.
I'm worried that it worked.
Make a motion to approve a raise for the town manager. Consistent with, approved by the town.
Second. Martha, how do you vote? Keith, how do you vote? I vote in the affirmative. Mark, how do you vote? Okay, that, much like in the closed session, the vote is 3-1 and 1 abstention. Andre Boudreau is not here. Any other discussion, Martha? Otherwise, we'll close the open session. I make a motion to close the open session. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Martha? Keith? Mark? I am in agreement 4-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.